5 reasons not to use the de minimis rate. Hey everyone, this is Dan Durst, Senior Manager at Capital Edge Consulting, bringing you 5 reasons not to use the de minimis rate in connection with your federal grants. I've been with Capital Edge for over 5 years now, consulting organizations that do business with the federal government. Either they receive contracts, grants, cooperative agreements. And today we're talking about particularly cost type grants and cooperative agreements in which an organizations could elect to use the 10% of modified total direct costs to recover indirect costs on those cost type grants and cooperative agreements. But I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you should not make that your first choice. So, number 5, it's the government's first offer, right? If you walked into a car dealership and you had your eye on a particular vehicle, and the dealer walked over and made you an offer and basically said that, this is the price that you could pay. Do you think that that's their best offer? No, chances are it's not, right? And that's the same case here, right? The government has put up the de minimis rate basically to give organizations the easy button, right? And what does it do? It saves the government money on their programs. But what does it do to your organization is it starves your organizations of the needed indirect cost recovery to pay for the types of support services that actually support the federal programs. If you consider the definition of the de minimis rate, it means, or of de minimis, it means too trivial or minor to merit consideration. Okay. So, do you want to tell the stakeholders at your organization that your indirect cost recovery strategy is too trivial or minor to consider or to merit any significant consideration? I don't think that you would say that in the meeting, right? So make sure that we don't do that in action either by taking on the de minimis rate. Number 4, most organizations operate at a higher rate. So at Capital Edge, we do indirect cost recovery preparation and negotiation for a number of organizations throughout the year, each year. And what we've noticed is that the majority of organizations operate at a higher rate than the de minimis rate. And so what that means is that most of the organizations that we negotiate rates for typically fall between 15 and 40% of modified total direct costs. So if you are electing the 10% of modified total direct costs, chances are you're leaving between 5 and 30% of additional indirect cost recovery on the table. That could really help out your organization. Number 3, negotiation creates an annual return on investment. So when we help an organization negotiate their indirect cost rates and say they're awarded a 15% modified total direct cost, that means that they're going to be collecting now 5% more indirect cost recovery than what they would have collected under the de minimis rate. And the best part is that once you negotiate rates, it puts you on an annual cycle in which you get to negotiate your rate each year, then moving forward. And so if you consider if you would have elected the 10% de minimis rate for a 4-year grant, you're going to only be collecting 10% over those 4 years. However, if you negotiated that 15% rate, you would be getting 5 additional percent each year on all of your direct spend for each of those 4 years, right? And so really it does, once you get this process started, it really does create an annual return on investment that typically provides a lot of new funding into unrestricted funds for organizations. And so, smaller organizations that, don't have a lot of private funding coming in the door, indirect cost recovery and negotiating rates is a really important topic. Number 2, indirect cost rate proposals can be outsourced. So, as I said before, we actually prepare and negotiate on behalf of organizations indirect cost rate proposals each year. And so, they're due at different times. And so we do them basically on a rolling basis. And so when you consider how much a service like ours would cost to prepare and negotiate indirect cost rate proposal for you, you will make that money back almost immediately in your first year of additional indirect cost recovery as compared to what you would have collected under the de minimis rate. So it's difficult to say, well, we just don't have the time to do that, or we don't have the resources to do that. Well, you can outsource that to us. We're an allowable indirect cost, and then you can collect the cost of our service back on your first negotiated indirect cost rates. Okay, so it's great. It's a win-win for everyone involved. And then number one, sustainability is key. So the reason that the de minimis rate was even put into place is because the US government acknowledged that organizations need to receive additional funds to cover shared costs and administrative costs that are incurred basically in direct support, however, not direct costs of their federal programs, right? If you have a hundred individuals working on a federal program, somebody is processing the payroll and benefits for those 100 people. Typically, that's in an indirect function. And so, in order for your programs to continue to make breakthroughs through research, continue to reach the beneficiaries that you need to reach, in order for those benefits to keep serving the U.S. populace, sustainability of those programs is going to be key, and sustainability of your organization's key. And the only way to really ensure that is to try to recover as much funding as possible, right? To build your reserves and make sure that you have enough unrestricted funds to cover those shared costs and those other soft costs that the federal government won't pay for directly. So those are the 5 reasons not to elect the de minimis rate. If you're currently using the de minimis rate, or if you're just getting into your first grant or cooperative agreement and you're not sure what to do, shoot us an email, and I'd love to sit down and talk with you about how we can help you, recover the most amount of money on your cost reimbursement grants and cooperative agreements. And if you already have the de minimis rate, that's no problem. We can get an indirect cost rate proposal started for you as well and start that negotiation process moving forward. Thank you so much.